Hey, before we start the show, blipshift.com, B-L-I-P shift.com, has the new Spike's Car Radio shirt on sale today. Just went on sale for a limited time only. I asked you what color shirt to pick for the shirt. It is cool blue, it's called. There are some shirts that are navy, and on it is the Zagato. This is a drawing, a beautiful drawing of our Zagato in white with the actual yellow plate on it that has an F for Ferriston and a Z for Zuckerman. We own that car together. And this shirt rocks. So you want to support Spike's Car Radio, go to blipshift.com today to our store, the Spike's Car Radio store at blipshift.com, and order our new Zagato shirt. They're only $20. And it's super cool. I guarantee you're going to love it. Go check it out. All right, let's start the show.
And now, Hangar 56 Media presents Spike's Car Radio, a downloadable cars and coffee, hosted by writer, comedian, and automotive enthusiast Spike Ferriston. Now, here's Spike.
All right, here we are. Boy, Monday, kicking my ass, Zuckerman. How's your Monday going?
Horrible.
I hope it's Wednesday by now, and I hope that you and I are feeling better today than we're feeling right now. But, you know, I laugh when I see this 2020 stuff, like this horrible year, and it's never going to get better, and fuck you, 2020. But it's unrelenting. It seems to just get worse and worse. Right? Am I wrong about that, or... Today it's just all personal issues and problems, but doesn't it seem like every morning you wake up and there's just another kick in the nuts?
I would agree with you, and here's the first thing you have to remember, and everybody listening to this can relate to this. It's like we've had a horrible, uncomfortable pair of glasses put on our heads, and we view everything. These are like shit-colored glasses.
Those are like the ones you have on your head right now.
Exactly. And so it's a bad disposition, and everything is going to be looked at in the worst possible light. And yes, I will tell you, here's the thing about my business, Ferriston. It's all the mistakes have already been made. They're just waiting to be discovered.
Yes.
So I walk in, and then I get a letter on a file about a decision I made 6 or 7 months ago, and now I'm thinking, did I make the right decision? Did I make the wrong decision? What are these people talking about? I can't fucking remember. It could be a problem. It's probably not a problem, but now I've got to go find the file, but I don't have the people here to get the file.
Yes.
Nothing is working right. The whole system is broken, and it's just a big fat headache.
Well, I sense something more sinister happening. I sense that... the psychological effects of the pandemic are starting to show right now.
Yes, that's
right?
what I'm talking about, the perception and the weight.
But even myself, I start to feel like I'm breaking now a little easier, getting upset a little easy.
Yes,
the kids are feeling it a little bit, and we're mid-game here, right? We're mid-game.
Yes. And I'm going to tell you, I told you that last week was a bad week. Everybody was losing their shit last week. And I got into it with one of my partners, who I have, in 10 years, never gotten into it with him. And because I just had enough. It was like a cross between... What was that old Michael Douglas movie? Was it Falling Down? Falling Down and Taxi Driver. I was ready to go to kill.
I had... that, but this morning I had a road rage incident where the person was raging at me and I was fine, and I couldn't believe that I was fine, and that made me think I'm off kilter. That I couldn't even find the fight to do what I had to do. Anyway, hello everybody, Spike's Car Radio here. Good show for you today with Zuckerman right now. In a little bit, I'm going to be with Donald Osborne, who's calling in from wherever he lives to tell us all about.
Guy.
Yeah, his life. And I've met him once or twice. I don't know much about him, so I look forward to that conversation. I know he's Jay Leno's better half, and I believe he's part of the Audrain Car Museum.
Absolutely. Yes, that is in fact
true. Is that
true.
Rhode Island?
Yes, that is true.
Yeah, that's going to be cool. I went, this is a car story kind of. I went and got COVID tested a couple days ago.
You were in your car?
Every time I read about it, now, I'm pretty good. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I go to the Cars and Coffee, and I'm staying away from everything. I'm not paranoid, but I'm being safe. as you know, I used to work in a hospital, and I understand how germs work, and I didn't back then. Stop filming me.
I'm not filming you.
What are you doing?
Nothing.
What is that?
What's in my hand?
Yeah, what are you aiming at?
I'm aiming at you.
I know.
Because you're funny.
All right, but
anyway,
don't do that.
Go ahead, because you're a doctor, so go ahead and explain this to me.
I'm not a doctor, but I understand how dangerous this is because I learned my lesson when I was 15, right? You don't want to learn your lesson now.
Why?
I
When you got a Flatus bag installed?
No, when I went for a day of training to deal with antibacterial cleaning and how to in a hospital, and I slept through it. And then laughed about it with my friends. And then 2 weeks later, I was in the hospital with one of the germs I didn't believe existed. So when I was 15 and a half. By the way,
so
great.
40 years ago. And
think about this. And I was so excited to have this job. I was a janitor. My mom worked in the hospital. I'm making $15 an hour to a kid. That's like... You're
That was
rich.
big money back then.
You're rich.
Think about that. Nothing's changed in 40 years. You were getting paid $15 an hour, and that is minimum wage, I think, in this state.
That
lower
was
in
a
some
union
states.
job somehow that I was able to do for the summer. So there were me and 3 old guys and a 15-year-old Michael Ferris, and my name at that point was Vinny Sanchez. Anyway, Zuckerman, I learned to pay attention to the germs. So, I'm not nuts about it, but I am careful, and I do everything I'm supposed to do.
Did you get a brain scrape? Is that what they did?
No, since this thing began, I'm fascinated with how things work. Testing's available to everyone here in LA, and every time I would go to the site, you've been tested a lot. You said you've gone to these places. My friends have gone. I could never get in. Well, I see it on the Nextdoor app. Hey, the testing place at the VA is open. Go sign up. I sign up. They give me an appointment for the next day. I drive over there. There's no line.
That's where I went.
I cough. This is what they do. They say they're really paranoid, but I had just picked up the kids from camp, so the day camp where they go to the playground with a couple of their friends and social distance, and wear masks, and that's fine. And they say, roll the windows up. Did you do this?
I did exactly what you're talking about to bring
I want to
up
say
the
it, though.
sputum.
Don't interrupt me. Cough 5 times in case no one's done this before. You got to roll your windows up, and I'm like, but I've got kids in the car. They put a mask on, cough 5 to 10 times, into your arm with your mask on, and then take out the little Q-tip. And by the way, God bless all of these people working at this thing. It was kind of hard to follow it, but I was wondering why the old lady in front of me was just sitting there for 20 minutes. There's no line, yet I've got the lady paying with a check at the cashier at the fucking supermarket. Swab the inside, swab your tongue, swab the back of your throat, do the whole thing.
Go in there deep. I was retching when I did that.
I didn't go that deep. Put it in the thing. But I swabbed everywhere and I coughed really hard. They said it's going to be 3 to 5 days in 24 hours. And by the way, I think this is core. I think this is Sean Penn's deal. I thought I saw the word core. I was in and out of there except for the lady who slowed me down 10, 15 minutes. Yeah. And I got my results a day later.
And what do you got?
I got it.
Herpes, shingles, and crabs.
All of it. They said everything. And I'm pregnant. No, I'm fine. And it's weird. I was kind of disappointed, Zuckerman. Explain that psychology.
I can't. That I can't.
You know what I mean? It's I should feel good that I'm doing everything right, but in some ways I feel like I'm just prolonging the inevitable. Or as my wife pointed out, she goes, you're never happy anyway. You're just not happy if you have it. You don't have it. There's no safe place for you. Maybe she's right.
You would have a slight tan, Ferguson. Your normally peaked body is somewhat tan.
I'm just sitting by the pool.
Nice.
But I'm trying to get into shape because I've fallen into this pattern that I think a lot of folks have, which
5
is
pounds.
Which is cigars. A lot of folks aren't smoking cigars. Cigars, Bosch. I'm in Bosch season 4, which I'm loving, and just eating like a pig. When I can keep my day together. I work out, and then at 6 o'clock,
it's on.
It's on.
Baby.
It is on.
It's on. It's the pantry is a feeding trough.
Yeah,
and it's on.
And it's 2 things that work in life right now: is cars and driving, and the trips to the supermarket. And I've got to eliminate number 2.
When I walk into the kitchen in the morning, after it's been on.
Yes.
To see the amount of crumbs and shit on the floor in the morning, cracker crumbs, popcorn crumbs.
And then we call each other to tell each other about our toilet activities the following day.
Yeah.
Of what happens, your body rejecting this, saying, stop this and getting it out.
Was it?
My wife's very upset that we're having these conversations.
Why? Doesn't involve her? We're not getting into her business.
She thinks it's really odd, and
Shall
I don't
call
disagree.
her up? And I look. It was
don't
a
wanna
hell
do
of a harvest yesterday for a bumper crop. Shall we talk? Shall I tell her about the bumper crop, the wonderful harvest, the horn of plenty?
It's not even about that. It's about the spring in your step afterwards. This chance, this reset that you get to try again. And today I'm doing okay. Today I've worked out. I did a home spin. I lifted the weights. I've had just eggs and then a protein shake, and now I'm here with you.
They are in shame about their number 2 bathroom habits, women that is, and we take appropriate pride in what we
I think
accomplish.
they're pretty open about it. You're not going to again lure in the women with that comment right there.
Oh,
they're ashamed.
Again,
I think
I've
they're
misstepped
pretty.
again.
I think they're more open than most, and buying all sorts of drugstore aids to help them go to the bathroom.
Is that what the problem is? So it's a lack of production.
Well, I'm just saying they have no shame buying those pills, those X-Laxes. Like, I don't think I would be able to go. I'd have to Amazon it if I needed the X-Lax.
Really?
Yeah.
What about a Fleet Cinema?
Huh?
What about a
I
Fleet?
get really nervous in the pharmacy that people are going to know what I'm up to there. And that could be even with a chocolate bar. Like, I don't know why.
You're still like that little kid buying his first Playboy at 7-Eleven.
We didn't buy them. We got them at the town dump. Don't you know, Zuckerman? The town dump in West Bridgewater was like an amusement park for the kids.
Really?
And we could ride our bikes down there, and there was this big old empty Airstream trailer where you were supposed to put the magazines in for recycling, and that's where you went. You went in there, you opened the door, and once a week, some wife had found her husband's stash, and we would bring them back to the dog house in the backyard. We had this dog run house that was long deserted, and boy, you were just happy.
You were in a regular Garden of Eden of porn then, because we didn't have.
I only liked the Playboy. I only liked the Playboys. Whenever it got into the weird ones, the Wees, I'd give those away to Jimmy Lenahan and the other guys.
I was a proponent of Club magazine.
Club
Was good.
I didn't like the glossy, close-up nature of it.
Really?
And I had never really.
I don't know what's wrong with you.
I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with me.
No,
I
really.
think there was just no internet back then, and you were, satisfied with smaller and simpler things.
Pictorials.
All right, sponsor time, Zuckerman.
Dick pills?
No, not yet. Support for Spike. That's what they're calling it. Spike's Car Radio is brought to you this week by Manscaped. Who is the best in men's below-the-belt grooming? Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. They obsess over their technology developments and provide you with the best tools for grooming experience. This first read, Zuckerman, whenever these guys sign up, they send you their stuff, all right? So Manscaped, I get a box from them last week, and
boy.
in it is the little DOP kit, and in it is one of my favorite. There are all sorts of bombs and aids and, ball deodorizer and ball sprays. They have this amazing little kit of nail clippers and the rest of it. The DOP kit itself is something I'm going to use, but the thing I cherish most about the Manscaped is the Lawnmower 3.0. All right? Now you know that I wrote about male grooming below the belt on Seinfeld, right?
I did not know that.
The muffin tops. It is in the muffin tops. Jerry shaves his chest, and he doesn't stop, and he shaves too much off, and it comes back. Really, the story was about men didn't, at this time in the 90s, talk about doing any sort of grooming. It was just not something we discussed. Well, flash forward to now, 2020, Manscaped has us doing it. Not only can you do it, you can buy the tools to do it. This, Zuckerman, I will tell you, the Lawnmower 3.0, the biggest issue with grooming below the belt or anywhere is you get razor nicks. Well, with the Lawnmower 3.0, and I'm being completely candid with you, I'm not even looking down at this ad.
I can't look at you.
It's got a plastic
Guard.
cut razor thing, so there are no razor bites. You never have to worry about cutting your balls, your underarm, your chest. It doesn't, when you get a razor bite when you're getting a haircut, no razor bites. And, Zuckerman, a little light. So when you turn it on, you can see what the hell you're doing. I love this thing. It's worth it, folks. You need to get your Lawnmower 3.0. It comes when you get your Manscaped kit. Go to, let's see what we have the offer here. I haven't even read their ad, but just trust me. You want the Lawnmower 3.0. I love that thing. I used it this weekend. I love it.
Now, does the 3.0 make a 3-point turn around your bunghole? Do you use it there?
Exactly.
How does it work
yes,
there?
they do. No, I think the 3.0 is the addition of the light. But I'm telling you, to have something, you don't have to be afraid of biting you. Like our doctor tells us, he goes, I get guys calling me all the time who come in with their balls and their penis have cuts on it from trying to take care of themselves.
I understand the bite. Yes, the bite is bad.
That's
like a zipper.
Right. Now you've got a company thinking about that and doing it. Anyway, get 20% off. You got to get this, guys. Trust me. 20% off plus free shipping with the code SPIKE911. You know why it's SPIKE911?
Why?
Because I like 911s. SPIKE911.
I thought it was 911 because you zipped up your wiener.
It is not that. It is also not 911. It is 911. Go to manscaped.com. Get yourself one of these Lawnmower 3.0s. You've got to get it. Use the code SPIKE911. SPIKE911 to get 20% off, and you'll get free shipping in addition. SPIKE911 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use code SPIKE911. Thank you, Manscaped, for joining the Spikes Car Radio sponsor list. There'll be more of that. First, Ducati Streetfighter V4S. Did you see this bike, Zuckerman? That I
saw pictures of it. You sent me pictures of it. You sent me pictures of you driving around various places in it, which frightened me for you.
I was thinking about this on the way over. The weird, the weirdness of how you'll like freeform say whatever is on your mind, and frequently it's filthy and your mind is in the gutter, yet you don't embrace the motorcycle because that whole spirit that you embody is a motorcycle spirit, is an outlaw spirit, yet this thing you're quite conservative, almost like my mom.
You pointed out a contradiction.
It's a contradiction in your
personality. A contradiction in my personality.
Yes.
And I rode a lot of motorcycles, and I told you a story that after I took the bar exam and you wait 3 months for your results, I sent a motorcycle over to Europe in 1991, and I drove thousands of miles all over Europe. But, of course, I was young, and I believed in my invincibility. And now, in my particular practice here, I see what happens to people on motorcycles, and I just can't bring myself to ride. And since I do somewhat slightly care about you and your health and your... And the fact that you have a wife and young children, I
think of those things.
I try to caution you, and I know
But see, here's the problem I have. My mom, nurse.
Yes.
So she would come home on a Tuesday night and go, okay, no more go-karts. And be like, what? She goes, that kid got his scalp ripped off in a go-kart engine. You can't ride go-karts. The next night, no mini bikes, no BB guns. Like I heard this a lot. And I've been thinking, and everything you're saying is nice. It's very sweet that you're being affectionate and you're caring about me. However, all I'm saying is there's risk in everything, right? And it's not that you should never ride. It's the amount of riding you should do.
There is you can change the odds of being turned into a cripple by where you ride, how you ride, what's going on.
Yes.
So I don't disagree with that, but ultimately...
I don't believe in invincibility. I am an overly cautious, crazy guy. Yeah. But getting back to this Ducati...
And I do stupid things. Like this morning, I woke up in Mexico, and I drove from Mexico
in a hole?
and in a hole with the
buried up to your neck?
And
with a guy taking a leak on you?
I drove at a rate of speed that was probably... I don't know. It was as close to 2 as it was to 1.
Yes.
100 miles per hour.
Yes.
And was having a hell of a time.
That's good.
And at that speed, you could just, if there was a mistake, I would have been dead.
Look, what's less safe? This Ducati or this 356 that you've crashed in, the Speedster or the Zagato? They're all kind of the same, right?
I would agree with you.
Right?
I would agree with you.
Right. Anyway. This Street Fighter V4, let's talk about it. Because as you guys know, I'm not... my entry point for motorcycles is over. I drive a 66 Triumph Bonneville, which I've been riding more, actually. And the last modern bike I drove, I think, was in the 80s. The 90s. But I love motorcycles, and I'm finding that I love them so much during this pandemic, frequently because I'm kind of like, I hope someone does take me out. But no, I like the air and the feeling and the freedom. Anyway, I've been talking to guys online. I've been talking to guys in the motorbikes. I finally understand this motorcycle. These are called naked motorcycles, all right?
Naked motorcycles.
Naked. The Streetfighter V4S is like the ultimate naked bike. It's the Panigale V4 stripped of the fairings with a high and wide handlebar, which makes it turn much easier, yet it's got this racing engine, 1100 cc's Desmodici Stradale, delivering a 208 horsepower. It's on my Instagram, so you can check it out. So I'm driving a V4 with 208 horsepower, more than the Zagato, Zuckerman,
Do you
on
know
two
what
wheels.
Desmo stands for?
Desmodici?
No, desmodromic. I think it's the cylinder heads. It's something internal to the engine. Desmodromic, which gives it more power.
Well, it doesn't need any more power. Let me just go. It's got these little biplane wings on the front fairing, I guess. I can't remember where they're attached, but they feel really flimsy and really plastic, and that keeps the bike down. And the bike is, I was asking the guys out at Bill's, the Ducati guys who were out there, about how we got to this point, and they were saying it was a back issue. Like when you get on these racing bikes that you're kind of cafe style leaning forward, it hurts the back after a while. I kind of like it because those bikes generally have a fairing that's blowing the air over your helmet, and then you can go really fast, as opposed to kind of feeling like you're getting hit with the 2x4s at 65. But it's kind of nice that you're not going so fast because these bikes go epically fast. So they changed the rider position, and then the air of a naked bike, the feeling of the air is something I guess more experienced riders want, right? It's interestingly, this bike has led me to the Multistrada, which is the upright position and a fairing and some little, I think they're called panniers, a little carrying case on the side.
Panniers?
Panniers?
Panniers? Panny
Panniers?
holders?
It's a weird name, but it's, it's luggage, storage on the saddlebags on the left and right.
Got you.
Panniers, I think they're called, but I don't know how they're pronounced. Anyway, this motorcycle, first of all, I can't believe Ducati just let me drive this thing. They say, go ahead and take this.
What does it cost?
What does it cost?
Yeah, what's the price?
20, 25, V4 and a V4S. They're up there. But it's just a weapon, right? Like, I'm glad that I started with the Royal Enfield and then went to the Indian and then went to this and didn't lead off with this.
Right, because then you couldn't drive anything.
I had to get my sea legs back.
Your sea legs.
I did. I really did have to remember
Motorcycle sea legs.
how to counter steer and how to lean and how to feel the edge of the tire. And I'm not taking it out on the track and I'm not pushing this bike hard, but you forget. And it only takes one little lapse in judgment around those turns on Sunset at kind of a high speed, and your eye
feel
line
that chill.
looking at the tree instead of looking down the road, and you think for a second and you're out. But I fell in love with this bike, Zuckerman. I want to just tell you a few more things that are in it before we get going. Another thing I'm noticing, too, like, you fill the tank, you only get about 110 miles out of it, and there was no gas gauge on the bike, so it just tells you when you have 20 miles left, which I didn't appreciate. Small complaint. And I believe the previous Street Fighter got about 150, but I like a little more gas and a little more, travel. What matters? Brembo, Stylema, brakes, big fat tires, like I mentioned, biplane wing in the front to keep it down. Listen to this electronics package. This is a motorcycle, all right? 6-axis inertial measurement unit, ABS cornering Evo, Ducati traction control, Evo 2, Ducati slide control, DSC, Ducati wheelie control, DWC, EVD, Ducati power launch, Ducati quick shift up and down, DQS Evo 2 engine brake control, Evo.
Packed.
All right? Now, if I had this was my bike, this would be fun to kind of learn, but I had no idea what any of that stuff was.
Where do you drive this bike? I think you went to Cars and Coffee with this
I'll
thing.
get to that, right? I kept it in, it's got 3 riding modes, race, sport, and street. I pretty much stayed in street. I'll be honest with you, I didn't put it in anything higher because I like to cruise, and I'm just not there yet. Suspension, the whole thing. This bike, here's what happened, all right? I got on the bike, and like a lot of Ducatis, you know how they sound a little jangly and a little rough? This bike, when it warms up, smooths out. So by the time I got it down Sunset to the PCH and took that first launch off Entrada down towards Temescal.
Right.
That's where the thing suddenly woke up, smoothed out, and took off. It is a monster, but it's awakened a love of a brand in me, Zuckerman. Like, by the time I was done with that ride, met out with the Ducati guys out there, this guy who used to race Ducatis too, was teaching me about the bike and how it got to this point, and got home, I was Googling these bikes. I don't know yet if this is what I would like to buy, or if I want to go more race or go to multistrada, more, as I call it, Swiss mailman.
Right.
But
with the banales.
This bike really showed, it awakened me to this love of this brand. And this particular bike, where I feel like, and again, not knowing enough about these bikes, but I feel like it's a moment bike for them. It had a smoothness to it that I hadn't felt or heard in a Ducati. But maybe I'm just coming late to the game. I don't know. But
do you think when you're on a Ducati, do you feel like you're top of the food chain in motorcycles?
Yeah, you do. You do.
No excuses, bike. You're.
I feel like I'm on
man.
a Ferrari of motorcycles.
Right.
Right. It's that sort of exotic experience. Right.
And do you get the respect of other bike riders?
That I don't know enough about what other bike riders respect, nor do I care really. But
Did you have to do the thing that you hate on the PCH, which was to give like the peace or the thumbs up to the other bike riders?
I did not do that. But I didn't. Interestingly enough, I didn't get many of those.
They knew.
I got a couple. Yeah.
They knew you were a hater.
Maybe there's a little brand thing happening, and maybe not. Here's what really appeals to me about these bikes is the speed with which I arrived at Bill's. Like, I immediately was lane splitting at speed, and
here we go.
I was troning it. I was having fun.
A Tron. Okay, there's another ancient reference.
But everybody listening knows what I mean. It's scenery control. It's effortless. The way this bike leans and turns, the accuracy of the feel of it. I was coming back through near where I live. There's a series of rotaries or roundabouts, whatever you want to call them, where you kind of lean in left and right. It felt like the bike was doing it on its own. Like, I wasn't having to really put much effort. It was just
that stability control.
Yeah, it felt good. It felt really good, Zuckerman.
Captain Ferriston on his gyroscope.
Which I know, at my age, it's an epically bad idea to buy a Ducati.
As his potato chip body flings through the air.
Yes. And, a friend of ours reached out on Instagram, was like, hey, I have a friend who can why don't we go to the track and he'll show you how to get around the track fast.
Thanks.
No, I want to do it. But I don't think it's, like you said, I don't think it's a good idea to start racing right now on a motorcycle. But, it's reminding me how much I love bikes. My bike thing was before my car thing. It's always been that way.
And I love bikes too. And I own quite a few. I just don't ride them.
Well, anyway, I love this bike. I'm sorry that it's not a more in-depth review. There are plenty of people doing that. I hear they're not making a lot of them. I thought my friend Vic, who I saw at the Cars and Coffee on Sunday, said they were only going to make about 100 for the U.S.
Really?
I thought. I don't know, but it would make sense. I mean, it's such a special bike.
I think Ducati's king of the hill. I think that they really mastered the performance and style of these motorcycles.
Well, this thing, if you go to their YouTube video and watch what the hell the damn thing can do. I watched the YouTube video that Ducati put out of it first just to see what I had in the garage. And this guy is leaning down into a turn. He hits the throttle and it just jumps up on the rear wheel. He's got the front wheel turned. So he's doing a wheelie through a turn. And you're like, that's what this is. You feel like I immediately understood why Tom Cruise loves this brand. Like, this is why the action hero rides this bike, because it can do anything and it feels very controllable. It's beyond my talent to control it in that way, but I get it. I understand what this thing is.
Maybe one day they'll have self-driving motorcycles.
Yeah.
You just strap yourself on and you say, okay, do this for me.
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me, but thank you, Ducati, for sending that over. I really enjoyed it. I think the one that's going to really light me up is that Multistrada. I think that's the bike for me.
Multistrada.
Right. But I got on the Triumph this weekend. I went up into the hills at sunset and rode around, and
look at you.
It was magical. It makes me feel good. We have to say a few words here about Blue Chew. Do you know what Blue Chew is, Zuckerman? This whole episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. Let's talk about something we could all use more of right now. Sex. Great. Sext. Then it says, host, if relevant and you feel comfortable, please talk about your sex life and sex drive lately.
Now I'm throwing up. I'm throwing it because you're across from me in your little shorts. And please don't pop a boner in the same room with me.
So I would talk about it. Guys, now you can increase your performance and get that extra confidence in bed. Listen up, BlueChew.com. That's blue like the color blue. Blue Chew brings you, here it is,
the real deal.
The first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis. It's a chewable boner pill, Zuckerman. Did you ever feel like, did you ever think we would get here as a society that the chewable boner pill would be with us?
Get rid of your phony baloney and get the real deal.
Can you blow bubbles with it? Why is I guess there's nothing about the gum that would be different. Well, I did say it's gum. It's just chewable, right?
I guess you metabolize it quicker if it's a chew.
They want us to sign up and get this stuff.
Send us a bucket and I'll hand them out.
A bucket?
Send us
I think
a
it's
bucket.
medicine. I don't think you can just be sent the medicine. But they have people. Yeah, here it is. Blue Chew is made in the USA. All right. Not like China, so you don't have to worry about that. It's prescribed online by licensed physicians, so you don't have to go to the doctor or wait in line. That makes it easy.
Oh, that sounds legit.
It's even cheaper than a pharmacy, and they prepare and ship it right to you in a discreet package. No awkwardness.
They prepare it.
What's that?
They prepare it. I can just see there's a man in a white smock making
You don't even need to leave the house. Well, you may need to leave the house to use it.
Blue Chews.
If you could benefit from more confidence where it counts, Blue Chew is the fastest and easiest way to enhance your performance. And right now, this is good, guys. You want to know how to support the podcast? Here's how you do it. You follow these special deals. Go to BlueChew.com, BLUE Chew, CHEW.com, and get your first shipment free when you use our special code. What is it, Zuckerman?
Blue Chew.
No, Spike 911. Me and my favorite car. And you can use Spike 911 to try it free. Wow, there you go. Well, we can use that code.
Do you think the Blue Man Group uses Blue Chews?
That could be a good tie-in. Blue Chew is the better, cheaper, faster choice, and we thank them for sponsoring the podcast. And remember, when you support sponsors, you help make this podcast possible. So send us your boner pictures after you chew Blue Chew. Go to BlueChew.com and use promo code Spike911. All right. Sponsors are back, everybody. Thank you, Blue Chew.
They should have little pellets you just shove in the tip.
in the tip? Like a penis hole suppository?
Yes. How comfortable would that be?
I wonder when you chew the Blue Chew. When do you suppose? Like, I've never used anything like that. But at what point in the date, both of us are married men, at what point in the date do your friends who aren't married do this? Or maybe married men need this at this point, right? And wouldn't worry, but...
At this point, for me, I would just chew some just to feel life down there. Just for my own edification and satisfaction. I chew a handful and just to know that I was alive.
Just to know you're alive, huh?
That I was no longer inert.
Blue Chew. They said we could say whatever we want, so we're obviously saying it. Here comes your lunch.
Hey.
So that's a good time to bring on Donald Osborne. We love Donald Osborne.
He is the best. He knows cars.
He's in Rhode Island. He's one of the top guys in the car field. He works with Jay Leno. He's on Jay Leno's Garage. All-around good guy. Here is my interview with Donald Osborne. We've got Donald Osborne, automotive consultant, historian, accredited senior appraiser, member of the American Society of Appraisers. Look at you. Also, Jay Leno's better half, and most recently, the CEO of the Audrain Automobile Museum. Donald, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm excellent. Thank you very much, Spike. It's great to see you too.
I've got this weird little thing. Oh, there we go. Now I've got you without any of the, hey, there you are. Where are you? You're in Rhode Island this morning.
That's correct. Newport, Rhode Island.
Wow.
It's my new home. I relocated from Southern California back to the East Coast.
Wow, and so this is for Audrain, right? You were just hired in November of 2019. Boy, that's a pretty big change going from, was it Los Angeles, or where were you out here?
Well, near Palm Springs. I was in Rancho Mirage, but actually it's going back to the future, as it were, because I'm an Easterner. I was born in New York City, grew up in New York City, lived my entire life there, went to college in Connecticut, and then went back to New York and lived in New York, Connecticut, Eastern Pennsylvania until 11 years ago when I moved to California. And there for 11 years, experiencing the left coast life, and now back to seasons and summer humidity, but nonetheless seasons.
And how is that for you?
It's actually fantastic. There are two things that were very strange. When I moved to California, I moved to the desert, and almost immediately my blood thinned, and I would get cold if I went into LA. I would have to carry a sweater around with me to go to the movies, and it was absolutely extraordinary. And whenever I traveled a great deal, I still travel a bit, but I traveled a great deal, and whenever I would travel, I would feel cold quite intently. Mm-hmm. However, coming back here, perhaps because also we had a very mild winter, but coming back here, I've had no trouble readjusting to the cold. And it's very funny that obviously it doesn't get nearly as warm here, especially in Newport on the ocean, as it did in the desert in California. Even the humidity is not bothering me. It's sort of shocking. People ask me, gosh, don't you want to take that tie and blazer off? I said, no, thanks. I'm good.
I grew up, I was born in Fall River, Massachusetts, so I'm an
right
East Coaster. Right over there. What's the COVID situation there like in Rhode Island right now?
Rhode Island is a bit of an island, pun intended, of good news. The rate here, I think, is somewhere around 4%, and I believe as of 2 weeks ago, Rhode Island, in addition to having the distinction of being the smallest state in the union, also had the highest percentage of total tested population.
Oh, wow.
And so the governor here is, I think, been following a pretty well-measured path and watching the numbers every day. The number tested is obviously going steadily up. The number of positive cases has also been rising. However, the delta between the number of people tested and who are negative and the number of people who are tested and are positive keeps widening. So it's a good situation here.
So when it comes to cars, are you, and can you go to restaurants? Are you having car events? Are there cars and coffee, or is it as locked down there as it is here?
Well, it's funny. Restaurants are open, indoors and outdoors, obviously with spacing. I think the restaurants, don't quote me on the statistic, but I believe the restaurants are operating at somewhere around 50% of capacity, so every other table sort of. And as for car events, we here at the Audrain host normally about 12 cars and coffee events during the year at various sites around Newport. Right. We had our very first cars and coffee of the season a week ago, Sunday, and due to state regulations, it's limited to 250 people total. So we did by pre-registration, so 100 cars, plus leaving some room for spectators. We're having our second Cars and Coffee this coming Sunday, and it's under the same rules.
Wow. Well, we've been doing our Outlaw Cars and Coffee here at the Malibu Country Mart. It's an unlimited amount of people. Anybody can show up.
Yes,
we encourage the mask wearing and drive whatever you want. No need to register. You're far more organized than we are.
Well, again, being an Easterner, that,
yeah.
The East Coast, New England especially, is all about regimentation.
Yes, it is. And, it's about rules. It's about rules. And those... the registry of motor vehicle police that had military uniforms early on that scare the hell out of us.
It's a very, very funny thing. Because as you can imagine, as you've seen there, I saw photos from your Cars and Coffee that our mutual friend Garth Hammers sent me.
Oh, yeah.
I said, well, gee, that looks like a lot of fun there, Garth. It's an interesting point that Our first Cars and Coffee was held at the Newport Polo Grounds in Portsmouth, Portsmouth, Rhode Island. And we had a terrific crowd. Of course, as I said, we opened it to registration only, and it filled up in an hour. We just opened registration this morning for the Cars and Coffee. It filled up in 18 minutes.
Wow.
People are really desperate to get together again.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's one of the things that we can all do during this pandemic and quarantine that's okay. You roll the windows down, you're generally in a car by yourself, and things feel normal for a little while. Isn't it an interesting pattern with these Cars and Coffee? And I can see it happening out here in Malibu too. They just get bigger and bigger and bigger. Then there's generally a guy in a Mustang that crashes into a telephone pole. And then the police shut him down.
Now, why are you picking on the poor Mustang drivers?
Because they're the ones.
Well, it's a very interesting thing, and in a very funny way, there are a lot of, I think, positive things that have come out of the pandemic and will come out on the other side of this, whatever it looks like, because people have been forced, I think, to think about what we do and how we do it. And the fact that we were able to take a step back in our Cars and Coffee. I mean, our biggest Cars and Coffee event last year drew 450 cars. And that's a tremendous thing. But it is also, people, I think, will appreciate getting together a little more. There are a lot of people that thought, oh, well, this whole pandemic thing and quarantine and isolation is going to drive us all to just being forced into our cell phones and watching endless loops of whatever we could on streaming TV. But as people did that, they thought, oh, I'm dying to get out and drive my car. I'm dying to see my friend, my neighbors. And so this really proved it. And one thing that happened at Cars and Coffee can only happen at Cars and Coffee. It's the mix of people, as you said, the Mustang guys, notwithstanding. I took a photo at the Cars and Coffee, which for me sort of epitomized the entire idea of it. There's an absolutely beautiful British racing green over biscuit, Series 1.5 E-Type Roadster, and behind it was an orange Unimog.
Exactly.
Only at Cars and Coffee.
That's the flash mob. We're having that same thing happen out where we are. We never know what's going to show up, and that's what's really fun about it. And you're right. There's this new appreciation for something we all took for granted. And it, in some ways, at least my enjoyment of cars is better than it's ever been. I'm just curious. I'm, I guess, the last to know about Audrain's Newport Automobile Museum. Can you just give us the top line of what this organization is and how it works?
Okay, the Audrain Automobile Museum, and I'll put this into a larger context, is I'm actually the CEO of Audrain, which comprises the museum, the Concours and Motor Week, which we premiered last year in October, as well as a new venture that we're starting, Audrain Motorsport. We'll talk about that a bit later. But the Audrain Automobile Museum was founded by three partners back in 2014 in an amazing historic building here on Bellevue Avenue, where all the mansions are in Newport. It was a building built in 1903 by an architect named Bruce Price, for a fellow named Adolphe Audrain. It was a speculative building with retail on the ground floor and offices on the second floor. And it was the home of the first branch store of Brooks Brothers outside of New York. And it's a spectacular, beautiful Italian Renaissance style building with wonderful glazed terracotta arches and magnificent details. And the building was completely renovated and restored, won a number of architectural awards for restoration and repurposing. And the museum opened in 2015 and has done since, we're now on the 18th show. I became associated with the museum through my friend Jay, who introduced me to one of the founding partners, and I came up and appraised the collections. And then I began to consult with them about the acquisition and deacquisition of cars. And they asked me to come on board to be a consultant for the creation of the Concours and Motor Week. And then I didn't realize it at the time, but I came up and I was here in Newport working for 3 weeks before the event last year. And it turned out to be my job interview. And the day before the concours, they offered me a job. They said, would you like to come in and be CEO and take us to the next level? And I said, well, sure, why not? I'll leave my school in Mountain View in Southern California and come back to the snow. I have to do that, yeah.
Yeah, wow, what an interesting job.
It is fascinating.
Are you by yourself? Did you bring your family back?
I brought my family back. My spouse, Frank, is with me, and he's also an Easterner. So
he was fine with it.
Native of Connecticut. So we're back home. So that's a good thing. And it's really amazing because I'm not quite sure how much you know about my bizarre life, but I've done 5 completely different things in my life. I was an art major in high school. And of course, I loved cars as a kid, so I wanted to become a car designer. So I applied to and was accepted to Pratt Institute for Industrial Design. But instead, I went to college for music. And I was an opera major at the Hart College of Music. And graduated from there. And then, so I could have some work while I was building my operatic career, went to work for Macy's and went through the executive training program at Macy's. And worked at Macy's as a department manager while still singing in the extra course of the Metropolitan Opera, which I had started when I was 17 years old. Quit Macy's to pursue my singing career, worked in a variety of other businesses in New York while I was pursuing my singing career. My solo Met debut when I was 29 years old. And then after 2 years of that, I decided I loved singing and hated the business of music and left and went back into retailing. And through all this sort of fooling around with cars and writing about cars, I contributed my first piece to Sports Car Market magazine in 1993 and became an auction correspondent for them while pursuing my other businesses, working in marketing communications, corporate image and branding. And then to shorten the story, in 2004, a very good friend of mine who was also a writer at Sports Car Market at the time, Dave Kinney, suggested to me that I might want to consider a career as an appraiser. And I thought, that sounds interesting. I can tie all this together. And so I started my company, Automotive Valuation Services, back in 2004. And it somehow led me here.
Wow. So is there that much money in auto valuation?
Yeah.
Because whenever someone's...
My bow ties are free.
I'm trying to think like the times, and I get this question a lot when people reach out to me on social media. It's like, how do I get an evaluation for a car? My insurance company needs to know, but I need someone to make a judgment on it. That's the job that you occupy, right?
You contact Automotive Valuation Services, automotivevaluationservices.com. The work that the office does, I work with 2 associates there. The office, actually, by the way, is in Palm Springs.
Right.
Still. The work that we do is to value cars for insurance coverage, also for estate valuation, marriage dissolution, charitable donations, also valuing for marketable cash value if you're thinking of selling your car.
Right.
And we also do market analyses if you're thinking of buying a car to see where the particular car you're looking at fits into the marketplace in terms of value.
So you really have your pulse on the market right now.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to, as an appraiser, it's your job to be conversant with all of the markets as they exist, because of course, as you know, there are many markets for cars.
Right.
There's the private sale market, there's the auction market, there are brokers, and you have to consider also geographical concerns. There are cars that are frankly more valuable and more interesting to people in certain parts of the United States, or certain parts of the world. Then there are international cars that sort of trade for the same money, taking a currency exchange into account all over the world.
So if you were going to help a listener kind of value their classic car, and let's say it's a production car, right? Maybe semi-rare, but there are thousands of examples. Like what direction would you point them in if they wanted to kind of form their own opinion? Like what resources would they use?
Well, first of all, of course, no one is allowed to form their own opinion because my opinion is the only one that matters. If you insist on going on your own, just kidding, of course. I think that there are one of the things that's great about the world today and the amazing amount of data that's out there is the fact that there's lots of information available for you if you want to have an idea of what your car is worth. There are databases like Sports Car Market has a wonderful valuation database. Haggerty has a wonderful valuation database. NADA has a wonderful valuation database. And you can also look at the websites of the auction companies. You can look at the apps such as Hammer Price. They can all give you an idea of what cars have sold for. The caution is this, and the reason why you can read WebMD and diagnose yourself, or you can go to a doctor, because you get an idea of what might be the case, but you're not going to know for sure, because especially in this market, this thing that I and my colleagues have seen for the last almost a decade now, the market is becoming more and more and more specific. I mean, you see it on your site, quite frankly. Just because it's a 1988 BMW, all 1988 BMW M3s don't get the same value.
Right.
Depends on who's owned the car, what the mileage is, what service records exist. So just because one sells for a record price doesn't mean that your beater that's had 16 unknown owners and never had the oil changed is going to be worth what that was. So
well, I was going to say,
really pay attention to.
That's Haggerty. They have condition 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I don't think there's been a person on that site that's not had a 1. They all have condition 1 cars.
Absolutely. It's a very, very funny thing too. I remember years ago going to see a Lancia Beta Scorpion for sale in the Valley in LA, in Van Nuys. And I was really excited because I always liked those cars. I ended up owning one, not this one. And it was a great color that I really love, this wonderful bright metallic green. So cool. And so I get out there and see the car, and the guys describe the car as very original and great survivor. And I got out there, the thing is a total wreck. It's been completely sun-baked. The interior has been reupholstered in God knows what, in 16 different colors and materials. And the top is ripped. And I'm saying, gosh, this car needs more work than I really want to get into. He said, what are you talking about? This is preservation. This is like Pebble Beach. I said, no. These are the rocks on the beach. There's no pebbles here. It was frightening. So give some.
This is a manatee. Yeah, well, that's kind of what I like about it. Is everybody thinks their car's great, and that's why your service is important, because the insurance company wants to hear from you. They don't want to hear what you self-Googled about your vehicle. I always, if I'm trying to buy, I always go to eBay Motors to kind of see where the market is at, but I'm always looking at the comps of sold cars. And then if I see something on Canopus site, or I see something on somebody's site I know, I'll call someone up there and go, what did it actually sell for? What's the real number? And that's how I kind of get a sense of the market. But when I'm insuring a car, I have to go to people like you. I have to get somebody who's not me.
That's right.
Not optimistic.
Well, and again, there's nothing wrong with being optimistic. The flip side of this is the fact that there are those people, and you who are listening know who you are, who have cars which are extremely valuable that they've owned for a very long time.
Yes.
They didn't pay a lot of money for them, and they will chronically underinsure them because I'm not going to pay $800 to insure my $14 million car.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Well, you also get into situations where you have, a small number of builds. You might have 3 to 9 cars. And how do you arrive at any sort of comp on that when a car hasn't been sold in 10 years, right? That's really where it gets confusing.
And that is frankly the challenge and fun in being an appraiser, because quite often I have appraised one-of-a-kind cars.
Right.
And
how do you do that then? How do you approach that?
For a car that there's only one of. And the appraiser's rule is to use something called the principle of substitution. If you didn't have, let's just say, Steve McQueen's XKSS, what would you have? And so it would be a comparable, important car with performance that had been owned by someone who is a known car person and an international celebrity. Therefore, you can go to a Ferrari, you can go to a Bugatti, you can find things that match the type of vehicle that you have. I've had all sorts of appraisal jobs for cars that I've never heard of before I received the call or the email to appraise them. And I thought, okay, this will be interesting because I probably will not make enough money on this job with the number of hours that I can estimate to do it, but I will learn something, and it improves my knowledge and my connoisseurship. So it's certainly worth doing.
What do you think the McQueen XKSS is worth?
Actually, I can't say because I've actually praised that car.
Oh, you have. Is it north of 30 million?
Yes, indeed. I would say a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. No wonder they won't let me drive it. They promise all the time, but they won't let me drive it.
They are very, very, and rightfully so. They're very protective of the car. Although I have to say this about the Peterson. The Peterson has been always a great partner of mine. I love all the folks there. They've always been very helpful when I've asked to borrow cars for segments on Leno's Garage. And in fact, we're opening here at the Audrain a new exhibition in a couple of weeks called From the Racetrack to the Opera, Marks That Did It All. And for that exhibition, we've got a lot of terrific cars that we've borrowed from a number of great lenders, including the Peterson. The Peterson is sending their 57 Chevy 150 Black Widow NASCAR racer. We're pairing that with an absolutely beautiful, actually Connecticut local 57 Chevy Bel Air convertible. The idea is racing cars and touring and luxury cars from the same brand. So we'll have the in the Audrain collection, there's a spectacular 1928 Duesenberg Model J Murphy town car that was originally ordered by Natalie Duke, Doris Duke's mother. And we're pairing that with the Fred Frame Duesenberg Indy Racer from the Revs collection, from the Miles Collier collection. We've got in the collection here a 1951 Delahaye 135 Chaperon Cabriolet. And the Peter and Merle Mullen are sending the amazing 1936 Delahaye 135 Grand Prix car that won at Le Mans in that year. And so things like that. So it's going to be a terrific exhibition.
When
we really depend on a lot of great partners.
And you know, when you think about your Concours, I know it just started last year, but you guys are really aiming to be the Pebble Beach of the East Coast, right? That's kind of the idea, or?
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, I'm not just being politic about this, but the event really can't be compared to any other event, because one of the reasons why I became involved here, when I was first asked about it, I thought, oh God, does the world need another Concours d'Elegance? I don't think so. But then I spent some time here in Newport, and it was the city itself that convinced me to become a part of it, because Newport is an extraordinary place. I don't know when the last time you were here was, but you have to get back here. I had not been, before I came up and started, when I did the appraisal 4 years ago, I had not been to Newport since I was in school. It had to be at least 25 years since I was last in Newport. And I remember coming here and sort of seeing the mansions on Bellevue Avenue and sort of avoiding whatever happened down by the marina, because it's all sort of touristy and horrifying. And there was sort of nothing in between. But Newport's an amazing city, you know, founded in the 17th century, one of the oldest cities in North America, and with a great 18th, 19th, and 20th century history. And Newport, to me, stands for history, luxury, and sport. And that became the guiding principle for the Concours and Motor Week. How do we celebrate that in all forms? And you've got the great houses, you've got amazing cars around here. And we also had collectors from all over the country send cars. And when you do a Concours that's on the lawn at the Breakers, and when you have the International Tennis Hall of Fame, the Kim Mead and White building as your Concours village, it just lifts it to another level. And also, I want to, probably the event that to me comes closest, and it's totally different again, is the Concorso d'Eleganza Villa d'Este.
Yeah,
because
I was gonna say.
It's a 2-day event, and the first day on Saturday is invitation only, very, very small, at the hotel itself. The next day on Sunday is a public event with a €10 ticket with tens of thousands of people in a big park right down the road. So this is both wonderfully exclusive and intimate, but also extremely accessible. And I think that combination is really something that's quite special, and something that we really want to build on.
And what time? And you do it in June?
October.
So okay.
We're not having it this October. We've postponed until next year, because obviously we can't do the event the way we want to do it. Obviously,
right.
Last year, of the 4 days of the event, we had 90,000 people come through the city, And so it was quite an extraordinary event.
Yeah.
And so we want to do it in that way again.
Yeah, I grew up around there. There was nothing like that when I was growing up. We just had this crappy exotic car dealer that eventually got shut down by the FBI. But you would drive by and look at the cool cars, and then you watched them get perp walked into the van shortly after, and then they never came back. So, my most exotic cars were just, American cars, Gran Torinos, Torino 500, stuff like that.
Nothing wrong with a good Gran Torino.
I can't even imagine that this would be, close by to go to on a weekend, even though my dad isn't the type of guy you'd probably want at an event like that. Smoking Winston.
He can come to the museum.
What's that?
To the museum.
He's welcome. Smoking Winston lights.
Welcome to the museum.
Yeah.
Tell let me know when he's coming. I'll be glad to welcome
him. Before I let you go, let's just talk about the car market right now. This pandemic coronavirus car market is so interesting to me that because, and again, you're the expert here. I want to hear your opinion, but my sense is things are selling, that it's vibrant. Am I wrong about that?
You are absolutely not wrong, Spike. In fact, just as we were talking about the cars and coffee phenomenon, there is a hunger for people to connect with those things that give them joy. And there are lots of people that I know, lots of friends, lots of clients who are eager to buy. Obviously, this has affected a number of people economically in a very, very bad way. But the reality is that most businesses are still doing some level of business. And there are people who are saying to themselves, what am I waiting for? The world could change overnight. If I have the money and it's not going to keep me from paying my mortgage or feeding myself and my family, why not go out and buy that car that I've always wanted?
Right. Yeah. Who am I saving it for?
And for when?
And for when? And my wife and I have been talking about this the last few weeks. It's just about these people we know who aren't with us anymore. And these little moments they had a week or two before they died. One was a very good friend of ours who threw this big birthday party for herself. And I remember thinking at the time, why do this at your age? It seems pointless. And now she's not with us. Months later, she's gone. And now I think about that moment and I really admire that she made that choice. And I totally agree. I see guys out driving cars that were garage queens finally getting it, that like, who am I saving this for? I should live for this day and enjoy my car. What should we buy, Donald? If we want to make money, where are we looking? What are we looking at?
There you go. I'm so glad you said that because it's the question that I used to dread, but I no longer dread it because I have the answer I always give, which is buy what you love.
There you go.
If you have a car or an idea of a car that will do everything for you that you want it to do, take you to the events you want to do, give you the driving experience you want to have, allow you to share time with friends and family in a way that you can only do with this car, the car will always satisfy you. If tomorrow someone's only willing to pay you half of what you paid for the car, it doesn't matter. The car hasn't changed. The experiences that you're going to have with the car haven't changed. And I also liken it to the dream vacation. You spend $20,000 on a vacation. When you get back home, do you expect the vacation to pay you back? It's the memories. That's what you bought. That's what you're buying with the car. The memories you haven't made yet.
Yeah, you're exactly right about that. And I ask it because that's the question I get all the time, and I want you to tell them the same thing.
Tell them exactly the same thing. If you make money on a car, I've made money on cars in the past. I've lost money on cars in the past. I don't care. I'm not a car dealer, so it doesn't matter.
Yes. I've had the experience where I've had cars. Primarily, it was my Dino, where I remember paying a lot for it because it was a low mileage preservation original. It went up in value and then it started to crash in value. And the more it crashed, the more I loved it because now I don't have to worry about it. This could go to zero and I could just drive it and I'd leave it in front of Starbucks. I'd just leave it around Hollywood. It was great. And it would start to get more valuable again. And then I was driving it less. So I was like, oh God, I don't want to ruin this. And so, but that's where I learned that it was about the driving and the car itself and not about the money. You're right. There's no joy in a little bit of profit or a little less. They're losing a little money. It's when you put your son in passenger seat for the first time and he's 11 years old and he's freaking out and you go for a ride in Malibu up in the canyons and you remember that. That's what I remember from these drives.
Exactly.
I'm so excited that you're part of this Audrain Automobile Museum. I can see this empire like being born right before our eyes. And I'll be honest
Absolutely.
with you.
Watch this space.
Yeah.
And everyone who's listening, you should also subscribe to our YouTube channel. We post 2 YouTube videos a week, Audrain Auto Museum. And we show off the collections and preview our exhibitions and just have a lot of fun with cars.
Yeah, and now you've got the Concours d'Elegance. This is exciting. This is the birth of something. I'm very happy for you, Donald, and hopefully I'll see you again soon somewhere when we're
indeed. Yeah, unfortunately we won't see each other at Pebble Beach this year, but
yeah, we won't. Do you smoke cigars?
I'm not supposed to.
Well, maybe we're not supposed to smoke a cigar together when we're all back together, and hopefully,
absolutely.
And when you're doing this Audrain Automobile Museum, I'm going to come by. I want to come see this.
Please do.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Anyway, very nice chatting with you.
Nice chatting with you too, Spike. Be well.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Spike's Car Radio, brought to you by Hangar 56. Listen to new episodes every Wednesday, and be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.